party people and fiber friends. Welcome back to Stitches and Starlight. My name is Tashiana, but you can call me Tashi because that's what all my friends do, and we're friends now. Welcome to my corner of the internet where I talk about what I'm knitting and spinning and potentially sewing and potentially weaving. It's literally all fiber all the time. I'm coming to you from my home in Brooklyn that I share with my husband Joshua and our two hell kittens, Minerva and Astoria, and I'm just so jazzed that you're here. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on that thumbnail. There are so many voices on the internet clamoring for your attention, but you saw my face. I don't know what thumbnails look like these days. You saw something and you decided to give it a go, and that makes you a rad human. If you're coming back to the channel, you already know what time it is. Thank you so much for being here. Real quick before I get distracted, I've had a few questions about the 10,000 yard stash down. We are still doing it. I am tracking yardage as I finish projects. So like literally you guys are going to come here 1 week and it's going to not say 10,000. It's going to say some ridiculous number like 7,000. But I am not a monogamous knitter. So I am knitting on a bunch of things and making slow and steady progress on a lot of things. But it's hard for me to like change it based on like how much I knit in a week or how much I knit in 2 weeks because I have no idea. So the 10,000 yard stash down is still happening. It's just going to say 10,000 yards until I bind something off. And then it'll go down by like 1,300 and it'll go down significantly. But we are still doing the 10,000 yard stash down. It is still happening. We are in month 2. Month 2 of the stash down. It is February of 2023. I don't know when you'll be watching this. You might be watching this in the future where like cats are flying and they're controlling the world and we're like, all hail our overlord Puss in Boots. I don't know when you're watching this, but it is currently February of 2023, which is month 2 of the stash down, and we are sticking to it. Point 2, before I forget, on Rowan. Rowan is my dress form, by the way. I don't know if I've ever properly introduced you to her, but I have a thing for plants. So Rowan is my dress form, and on Rowan is my 75% finished ranunculus. The body is bound off. I have a sleeve, a partial sleeve. Vogue Knitting Live is next weekend, and my goal is to wear my ranunculus to Vogue Knitting Live because it is literally the only thing I have that I can properly finish and block in the 6 days I have between today and Saturday. So there's my ranunculus. She looks fabulous. You can see no details on her, but trust me when I say she looks fabulous, and I'm going to get her done so I can wear her to Vogue Knitting Live. So there will be an FO the next time you see me. Those were all the announcements. That's all the housekeeping. Let's get into the show. So my FO this week is also a work in progress. So I don't know if I should call it an FO. I don't think I have any FOs. We're not even going to do FOs. We're going to go right to works in progress, but this is kind of an FO. I don't know what it is. So here's some hand spun. The last time you saw me, I had mentioned that I got some fun baby doll South Down roving. It was baby doll South Down Navajo churro roving that I planned on using for socks. So here is a sample I spun of my sock blend that I'm going to be offering in Starlight Blends the next time I do my shop update. But I wanted to properly test this sock blend before I offer it. So here's the yarn. So this is, I call my sock blends Gemstone Strong because that's the goal. The goal is for it to be gemstone strong so that you wear them and you don't wear holes into your socks like for some time. So they all have gem names, and this is aquamarine, which is why it's this fun blue turquoise color. So in this sock blend, there is that Navajo churro baby doll South Down roving. There is some Coopworth, there is some mohair, there is some silk, there is some alpaca. I have all the notes, but I don't have them on me right now. So I did spin up 50 grams of it, and 50 grams gave me, oh shucks, I probably do need the notes. I think I got 150 yards for 50 grams. I wasn't expecting this to be a high grist high grist yarn language because of the mohair and the Coopworth, and honestly that baby doll churro blend is not high grist either, so I wasn't expecting a high grist blend. But honestly, if you get 350 yards, that's for 4 ounces, that's enough to knit a pair of socks for me, and I have giant feet. I wear a US women's 12, so that is enough for me to knit a pair of socks, 350 yards. So I figure that's, you know, enough for the average knitter to knit a pair of socks. So I'm going to knit, what is this word? My Lord. A foot. I'm just going to knit a foot, but I'm not going to knit a toe. It's just going to be a tube. That is the word I was looking for. I'm going to knit a tube. Wow. language. I'm going to knit a tube. I'm going to knit 2 tubes, and then I'm going to put them on my feet and then put my socks over them and wear them for like 3 or 4 days, or however many days I can wear them before they get grotty and smelly, because I'm on my feet all day at my job. And that way I can test how they wear, 1, 2, how good they feel, like if they're itchy or scratchy. I mean, I'm not sensitive to wool, so that's probably not going to be an issue for me, but it'll be cool to have some information for everybody else. And 3, I want to see like if they felt, because this is supposed to be a felt resistant blend. So I'm going to test it for felting. So that's my plan. Probably after I finish filming today, I'm going to knit those tubes, because it shouldn't take me too long to knit tubes. This is proper sock yarn. My last sock spin ended up DK weight. This is a heavy fingering, so I'm gonna knit this on US 1s at 68 stitches, because that's what I knit for my socks, and we'll see. It still has some elasticity, because I know people are concerned about that. This still has some elasticity. It still has some bounce, because, you know, once you start putting long wools and things, you sacrifice elasticity, and socks do need a little bit of elasticity for recovery. You want negative ease in your socks so that they wear well. This still, you see, you can see it. That still has some bounce, still has some squish, and it's also really soft and really warm. So I'm really excited about this sock blend to put it to work. So that's work in progress 1. My other 2 works in progress are knitting works in progress. We're going to do the pressed flowers cardigan first, because this is probably going to be like the 4th time you've seen it, but I'm going to keep showing it to you in the hopes that I get it done. Every time I pick up a project, especially projects knit flat, I am always in the middle of a row. Just in the middle of a row. Thankfully, I've split for fronts and backs, so I can be in the middle of a row without it causing too much chaos. Oh my gosh, can I be in the middle of a row without it causing too much chaos? We shall see. I should probably put needle stoppers on this. I'm not. We live life on the edge here. Welcome to the wool chaos. But ideally, I would have put needle stoppers on this, so help. So here's my pressed flowers cardigan. I have finished a front, and I'm so happy. So here's what happened to me with this yarn. And halfway through this front, I was like, should I rip it back? And then I decided not to, and I went on the adventure. But for some reason, when I got to here, my hand spun went very blue, like very, very blue. So this sort of like it's not monochromatic. Okay, let me hold it up closer. It's not monochromatic. There's still very many colors in it up close. But from far, it looks very blue, and that didn't happen to me any other place in this sweater. So it's all like very colorful, and then it gets here and it's like, ooh, it's Mermaid Island. And for like a hot second, like maybe when I hit here, I was like, do I like that? Is that gonna be weird? And then I decided I did like it, so I left it alone. But literally for a hot second, I debated ripping back to like here and then doing some sort of color management on my handspun. It's so odd that happens, because it hasn't happened anywhere else in this project where I got significant. And it's not that like, you know, these rows are significantly shorter. It's just that there was a huge blue patch right here, because even if I was knitting this across a full 315 stitches, there still would have been like something like this wide of just blue. And that didn't happen anywhere else. But I kind of like it. I think it looks fine. I like it. And I didn't rip it back. And then I'm on to the center back. So I've already picked up the center back stitches, and again, I am in the middle of a row, because why not? So here's where we are in the back. And I love the colors in this so much. But honestly, I'm probably going to be knitting this till June at this rate, because I only knit it during D&D. I knit it 4 hours a week. And even though I get a fair amount of knitting done during D&D, I'm also like playing D&D, and especially when we're in combat, it is very tense. I do more of my knitting during like role play, but once we get into a fight, because in that game, my character is the tank and is the damage dealer in the party. So I'm constantly like reevaluating moves and counter moves. By the time it comes to my turn, it's very hard to knit during combat. So we will see. I will probably be knitting this till June, but then if I get it done for like early summer, it's gonna be the perfect time to wear it. But I'm really excited about this. I'm jazzed. For a while, I was just like, this is taking forever. But now that we're getting to like the shorter sections, like the fronts and backs, where it goes pretty quickly. Like I knit the front in 2 sessions, which is slow knitting. Yes, I understand, but also like, I'm also playing D&D, so like knitting is not my priority. But I knit the front in 2 sessions, so I imagine the back will probably take me 3. because it's wider. And then the other front will take me another 2. So that's 5 sessions. So that's 5 weeks. So in like 6 weeks, I should have all the fronts and back designs and hopefully be moving on to sleeves. But 6 weeks will be like mid-March. So again, probably going to be knitting this till June. Good thing it's pretty and I like it. I really like having a D&D project though, because then I leave it on my desk and every time I go play, I don't have to think about what am I going to do during like downtime. I just have something. I'm very fidgety. So it's hard for me to like sit still. That's why I'm glad I don't have to do like Zoom meetings or stuff like that. I wouldn't be able to sit still during those. And the excellent thing about this pattern is like I memorized the stitch repeat very early on, so I don't have to use the pattern. The first time I had to use the pattern in a long time was when it was time to decrease for the fronts, because I was just like, how am I supposed to do this? But the stitch pattern is really, really easy to memorize as long as you mark it out. So I have little stitch markers in every 16 stitches, so I don't have to like worry about counting. I just treat each stitch marker repeat as a separate entity, and then I don't get mixed up. So it's a really fun pattern to knit. I honestly kind of want to knit the shawl. Like I'm not done with this motif. I really enjoy this. I might knit the shawl. And also, I don't like knitting shawls because I don't like knitting stockinette flat. But this isn't stockinette. So I actually might knit the shawl when I'm done. I have tons of hand spun. Why not? Okay, and then the other knitted work in progress I have is stuck to my pants. I am testing the Heritage Harbor pullover for my dear friend, Samantha Guerin. She's literally one of my favorite humans on this planet. I love you, Sam. I know Sam watches, so love you. I'm testing the Heritage Harbor pullover by Sam, and I'm testing it because 1, it's a rad design. 2, I had the yarn that she designed it in, and I was really excited for a project for this yarn. So this is the Heritage yarn by North Bay Fiber. It's a polypay Targhee woolen spun yarn. So it's like, yes for Tashi, yes for Tashi, yes for Tashi, yes breed specific, yes woolen spun, yes Targhee. How do you say no? And I bought a sweater quantity of this at Rhinebeck 2021, and then the sweater that I had thought I wanted to knit with it, I just didn't end up making it. So I had this yarn sitting on my shelf, and I've been like talking to Sam through the design process, and every time she showed me another element of it, I was just more and more excited. So the second she released a testing call, I was like, yes, please let me test this for you. So I did a few swatches, because the way the pattern is designed to be one main body color, one stripe color, but this is me we're talking about, and it is wool chaos. And so I was like, no. And then I think I literally said, how many colors can I put in this sweater until you're sick of me? Is probably verbatim what I said to her. And she was like, the world is your oyster, friend. And I was just like, Sam, you're a rad human. So I did 2 swatches. This was my first one, which the light is making this is blue, but it's looking very much white. I guess I'm gonna have to hold it back here because of the lighting. But these are 2 different colors. This is white and this is like blue. And so the yellow is called Sandbar. And then you can see that it's blue back here. The yellow is called Sandbar. This is Natural and this is Shoreline. And I was just like, the white and the blue look a little too much high contrast for me. I have a thing about mixing warm tones and cool tones. I don't know how to do it yet. So I have like feelings about like warm tones and cool tones being in the same palette. So I went back to the drawing board and did a second swatch. I had gotten gauge with my first swatch, so I wasn't really worried about gauge. I was more worried about colors. So here is my second swatch. And this is pink, which is again looking a lot like this white because of how close to the lights we are. But it is like very early in the morning, so there's like no natural light in here. So all my lights are at full power, so I'm not sitting in the dark. So here's my second swatch. And I was just like, I don't really know what color palette to use. And then I was just like, why not both? ¿Por qué no los dos? So we're going to do both. So here's my sweater. I cast this on last Sunday. And unless you're watching it in like the year of our Lord 2025, where, wow, 2025 is in like 2 years. I tried to pick like a ridiculous number, but 2025 is in like 2 years, so that's not ridiculous. Unless you're watching this in the year of our Lord 2100, where the cat overlords rule the world and, you know, my Lord Puss in Boots. Where was I going with that? I cast this on a week ago. That's what I was trying to say. Woo, the tangents. I cast this on a week ago. And this is a lot of progress for me on a drop shoulder in a week because so much purling. I can do it. Not my jam. So here's where we are in my sweater. So,
I found this on the web.
Goodbye, Siri. Here's where we are in my sweater. This is significantly, I'm gonna have to color correct this a little bit because this color is coming up significantly brighter than it is. But what my goal is to do a white stripe and then a color stripe and then a white stripe and then a color stripe and then another white stripe and then, you get it, another color stripe. There's going to be probably 4 color stripes in this between white stripes. Listen, I think Shein is the devil. I'm just going to say that out loud. Hot take. I think Shein is the devil. But I was Googling for yellow drop shoulder striped sweaters for inspiration for my color palette. And I saw the sweater on Shein that was a yellow base like this and had multiple colors in the striping. And I sent it to Sam and I was like, I found the vision. And she was all for it. So here is my, my pullover. It's hard to tell because I'm knitting this on silly small needles. We are joined in the round. So I have the back and 2 fronts, and we are joining in the round. And this is where we just knit in the round and we zoom. I have this thing about knitting sweaters where when I run out of my first skein of yarn after I join in the round, I go back and I do a collar and I do sleeves. I don't get on Sleeve Island if I leave it for last. So I'm probably, I don't have much yarn left on this. So as soon as I finish this, I think I'm going to ball up another skein of yellow and do the collar and maybe do 1 sleeve and then go back to the body. And when I run out of yarn there, go back and do another sleeve. And that way I'm knitting on all parts of the sweater at the same time. It's a way of preventing the whole Sleeve Island conundrum is if you break it up, you don't really get stuck on Sleeve Island. But I'm very, very jazzed about this yellow sweater. Also, 2023 is the year of the yellow sweaters because apparently that's all I make right now is yellow sweaters. There's just so much to love about this. First of all, this yarn is super squishy. I love, 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 love a woolen spun yarn. And this is just great. Also, the texture in this, I'm going to hold this up closer to the camera and the light is just going to do funny things. Just bear with me. But there's fun ribbed texture in this that I really, really, really appreciate. So you do some stockinette rows. And then between the stockinette rows, there's a fun bit of rib texture. And then you go back to stockinette. So it's really hard to get bored because you're doing 4 rows of something, then 4 rows of something else, then 4 rows of something, then 4 rows of a stripe. And so once you get settled into the 4 rounds, then it's just oh, something else. And then you get settled into those 4 rounds, and then it's oh, something else. And so it's really engaging knit and I'm really enjoying it. And it's been very good company for catching up on Critical Role and catching up on Never After because again, I love a pattern where I don't have to constantly look at the pattern. Yes, there's cables and lace and all that stuff, but my sweet spot is a pattern where I don't have to constantly look at the pattern. Even when I'm knitting color work, I want a motif that I'm got it, can memorize that and keep going. And I'm not there's that drawing sweater that has the fun flowers. I will never knit that because that will require entirely too much of my attention all the time. And I like a pattern that I could ease back into. That's why I'm knitting the Helia pullover because body, no cables, sleeve, cables, body, no cables. And so I could get in and out. And that's just my sweet spot for knitting. So that's the Heritage Harbor pullover. I am very, very jazzed about that. We will see. I honestly think that might fly off my needles. It's weirdly monogamous right now. Once I get to test knit land, I'm very monogamous because deadlines. I've failed, but I don't like failing test knits. Also, is there a better language than failing test knits? I've missed the deadline. I think I like that better than failing a test knit. I've missed the deadline, but I don't like doing it. And I know designers rely on this information for pattern launching. So if you're volunteering to do something, you better be willing to do it. So once I get to test knit land, I do get a little bit more monogamous because I'm gotta get this done. But this is flying. And I think this is an 8-week test and I'm in week 1. So I think I'm in a really good place for week 1. So that's all the works in progress. We're going to talk about something fun now. So I mentioned last time that Support Spindles had finally clicked for me. And then I went off the rails. I'm going to be perfectly honest. There were the guardrails on the side of me. First of all, caveat, the no buy never applied to tools. Just before you get in my comments, the no buy never applied to tools. It applied to fleece, prepped fiber, and yarn. So before you get in my comments, never tools. So there were guardrails on the side of me, right? And they were designed to keep me in the lane. And the guardrails were Tashi, be a good human. Tashi, make sensible choices. Tashi. And then I was like, no. And I hopped off the rails and I went in the deep end and did a bunch of crazy things. So I was talking to a few of my friends and they wanted the support spindle tour. So we're going to do the support spindle tour and then we're going to talk about support spindles. So if you're not a spinner, feel free to skip ahead. Yes, there will be more stuff after this. So feel free to skip ahead to like the not support spindle section. But if you are interested in support spindles or if you are a spinner, there's going to be so much eye candy for you over the next God knows how many minutes. It's a great time. So what I did, I've been like scouring the internet for storage solutions for my support spindles because a lot of people feel like you should store them upright so that you're not introducing any sort of wobble to your shafts. So I found a support spindle solution that worked. I got these like mini crates. So this is what I've been storing my spindles in. But I have one crate. You know where this is going. I have 2 crates. And I have a 3rd crate. This crate is at a different orientation because this is my crate that has singles on it because they don't fit the other way. But yeah, I have a problem. Let me rationalize my problem real quick. So here's how I rationalize the problem. I rationalize the problem because I was just like, I don't know which spindle makers I love. I don't know. I'm such a novice. I don't know anything about spindle makers. I also know that support spindles resell really well because I got half of this on Ravelry through D-stashes. So I know that support spindles have like a significant resellability value. And if you get them from like artisans, they resell really well. So my thought process was I would get a bunch from a bunch of different makers and a bunch of different styles and weights, and whatever didn't spark joy in like 6 months, we were going to Marie Kondo, we were going to resell. That is my story and I'm sticking to it. And I'm giving myself the 6 months because I'm like, they all spark joy right now, but 6 months from now, I will know which ones I'm reaching for and which ones I'm not. And in 6 months, we will reevaluate and we will let some of them go. There are some of them that you're going to have to pry from my cold dead fingers that are never leaving me. But some of them, if they're not sparking joy, I'm just going to go on Ravelry and like resell them and let them go to their new homes where they will spark joy, because that is how I ended up with a lot of them. A lot of them were spinners who they didn't spark joy for, or spinners who are no longer interested in support spindling, so they were just letting them go. Or spinners who had finally figured out that they liked like Tibetans over Russians, and so we're selling all their Russians, or liked Russians over Tibetans, and we're selling all their Tibetans. So it's like a common thing that happens. And then also like, these are like miniature works of art, you guys. Like they're just beautiful. And so they go really fast. So I found, I talked to a lot of people. Shout out to the people who helped me figure out my support spindle journey. A lot of people. Melody at Pacific Coaster Fibers has been like invaluable in helping me figure things out. There's Lisa at Soulful Spinning who has put up with all of my crazy questions. Diana Twist has put up with a lot of my crazy questions. Lots of people have put me in the direction of good, how do I phrase this? Makers that are like, have a reputation in the community for coming up with like good spindles and for having like balanced spindles. And so I have a smorgasbord and I'm going to show them to you so we can talk about them. But here's my thing about support spindles and why I went all the way off the deep end. I wanted this for so long. I got my first spindle in June of 2022. Actually, in June of 2022, I contacted Alan Berry about custom making spindles for me. That's how long I've wanted support spindling to work for me. And it didn't click till like 3 weeks ago. So for 6 months, I had been trying and getting frustrated and then putting it down and then trying and getting frustrated and putting it down. And then I was watching all my friends pick up support spindling and then just being good at it straight out the gate. Like Felicia at One Whip Wonder picked up a spindle and like the next day could spindle. And I was jealous. I was like, is there a right word for it? No, that's a word for it. I was like applauding them because I was so happy for them, but I was also like, why is it working for so many people and not working for me? Like, I am a good spinner. Like, I'm not Like, why isn't it working? And then I had like an epiphany one day and it clicked. And guys, I loved it just as much as I knew I would. Like, I knew that the second support spindling clicked for me, it was going to be my whole personality. And I was absolutely right. There's just something about the flick and the draft and everything else that is just, when I sit at my wheel, especially if I'm doing short forward spinning, like I said this last time, I can do a short forward in my sleep. There's nothing really engaging about it unless it's like a really special fiber, but there are definitely some of those spins that are just project spins and it's like, I need the hand spun, so I'm just gonna go through it. When I do like long draw or when I'm working from fleece or when I'm working from my like blended bats, it's a bit of a different experience because I can really savor those textures. But like comb top doesn't like do that for me. So it's so nice to have an experience that I can literally lose myself in. I come home, I put on, I also don't spin to music because my treadling changes, but I can support spindle to music. So I put on like a really fun playlist and I either play it over like our speakers or I put on my headphones, and for like an hour of just like the flicking and the drafting, I can lose myself in that like meditative repetition, and it is such a joy. It's also the magic of woolen spun yarns. Like, it's part of the reason why I prefer woolen spun yarns to worsted spin. It's magical when you hit that long draw, like when you get that sweet spot where you can draft, and the fibers are just doing what they do and you're getting that twist straight up that single. There's literally nothing like it. And once you've experienced it and you get it, you get it. Support spindling does all of that for me, and it's very much a place where I can be in my body because it's a full body exercise, and I vibe. It is, I think I use the words rad and vibe entirely too much, and I probably should remove them from my vocabulary, but that will never happen. Support spindling is a vibe. It is. So I am all in. So without further ado, let's talk about my toys. So, I don't know how to do that. Let's talk about my babies. You know what? I probably should have taken them out of this storage system. The clanking is starting, which means the heat is coming up. If this is your first time here, I live in an old apartment in New York City, and our heat is very audible, and it is very cold outside. So that's the heat coming on. Sorry for the background noise. Kind of is what it is. But you might have noticed that there is no more chirping in the video because 3 people were like, Tazhi, go put a battery in your smoke detector. We don't want you to die. And I listened and I went and I got a battery and I put a battery in the smoke detector. So thank you to all of you who were like, don't you hear that? Because honestly, sometimes noises become repetitive to me and I don't hear them anymore. So I did not realize that the chirping was still happening until people pointed it out. So thanks. No more chirping, but now you get to listen to my radiator. So it's a full concert when you come to Stitches and Starlight. We're going to talk about my babies. Oh no, I hope this lighting does not ruin my spindles. But here are my 2. These are my pride and joy. So we'll do one at a time. So this one's this. Okay. I don't know how to do this without you seeing my face. Okay, I feel borderline ridiculous, but this is the only way I can do this where my eyes are not distracting from my spindle. But now I have to hold it sideways. So there's one. And then I'll show you the other one. There it is. Okay. Again, borderline ridiculous, but autofocus is fun. So these are by a maker named Alan Berry out on the Pacific Northwest. I think it's the Pacific Northwest. It is the Pacific Northwest. So these are by a maker named Alan Berry out in the Pacific Northwest. And he hand carves these. These are literally made by somebody by hand. And he has like an 8-month waiting list. And guys, I put myself on the list in June. I had no idea if I was going to ever learn how to spin, but I put myself on the list. And so my turn came up and he was like, do you still want these spindles? And I was just like, heck yeah, because now I know how to spin. So I have 2 spindles. One has a lily on it because lilies are my favorite flowers. Lilies are actually toxic to cats, which I learned the hard way because Joshua brought me some lilies and my cats turned yellow. And it was a very scary week. But lilies are toxic to cats, so I can't actually have lilies at home. So this is as close to a lily as I can get, but lilies are my favorite flowers. And then one has an owl because in my D&D game, I have a familiar named Harmony, and she's a snowy owl. And so I have Harmony with me all the time. So those are by Alan Berry, and they are literally my pride and joy because they were made just for me. And even if I ever give up support spindles, those will stay with me forever because they're literally handmade works of art. Okay, the other spindles that will stay with me forever and ever are by a maker named Mizpah. And I discovered the goddess spindles right when she was no longer making or selling them. So all of the goddess spindles I've gotten on Ravelry through DStash. And I've been very successful at getting these spindles on Ravelry through DStash. I'm pulling them out so I can show them to you. So I'm on a mission to have a dozen by December because I want to do one of those Ingo Nook advents that you see people spin on their goddesses. You know exactly what I'm talking about. If you know anything about support spindles, you know those photos I'm talking about. So I'm on a mission to collect 12. I am 3/4 of the way there. No? Is that how math works? 8 over 12 is... I don't know how math works. Hold on. 2, 6... What? Oh my God. I'm a nurse. Hold on. I can do this. I'm 2/3. I am ashamed that you guys had to watch me do that. I am 2/3 of the way there. I knew 3/4 was wrong. I'm 2/3 of the way there because I have 8. I have 8 goddesses. I'm never going to live this down. Wow. All right. Hello. I'm 2/3 of the way there because I have 8 goddesses. And I love the shape of these. I love the story of them. I love the lore behind them. So here's what a goddess looks like. It's literally the shape of like the sacred feminine. I think they're called, so I've heard people pronounce them Pang and I've heard people pronounce them Fang. It's Phang. I don't know if the H is silent or not. I'm not a historian. I'm definitely not a linguistic person. So I'm going to call them a Fang because that's what I think, that's how I do them. But here's what they look like. And they're all like designed some certain way. So I have a bunch of them and I would show them all to you, but that would take a very long time. This one's my favorite. That's a lie. I don't know which one's my favorite. This one's definitely up there though. Because it has a daffodil on it and it matches... You can't see that here. Oh, you can see it. It matches my daffodil tattoo. So that's one of the ones that was like non-negotiable. And then this one has a poppy on it, which matches the poppies in this tattoo. So, yes, the goddesses are staying with me forever. They're like oh my God, they're all my children. They're all my children. I am like seriously getting myself all sorts of mixed up, trying to figure out how to show these to you in any sort of intelligent way. I'm failing miserably. So we're just going to take them all out. And I'll just show them. We'll talk about the makers and I'll show them to you. And then we'll talk about my current spindle projects and then we'll just be done because I'm trying to do this rationally. And I just don't know how. This is why when I watched Lisa do her video, she literally just threw all her spindles on the table. And I'm understanding why she did that because it's very hard to do this in any way that makes sense. Okay. I have 3 spindles by Woodland Woodworking, so I'm going to get them all. So here are my Woodland Handcrafts. Woodland Handcrafts. I have 3 spindles. This is the one you saw in my first support, the first time I was talking about support spindles. So there's this one. And here are the other 2 that I have amassed. So this one's a little gnome and one is a little mushroom friend. So here are my other Woodland Handcrafts spindles. I'm going to go turn off one of my lights and see if that makes things better. Okay, that does help. That helps a lot. All right, so here are my Woodland Handcrafts. So the little gnome he's too precious for words. And then I have a little mushroom. So those are those 2. What else? I have 2 spindles from Viscount Woodturning out in Canada. So I have an acorn and a mushroom. Come on, focus. There we go. I have an acorn and a mushroom. Some of them are in the middle of projects. Some of them are naked. I really like these. They have a nice weight to them. I'm trying to decide if I like metal tips versus non-metal tips. And I don't think I have like a clear preference just yet. That's the thing about only spinning for 2 weeks is you don't know where your preferences are. And that's part of the reason why I got so many so I could, figure that out. So half of these have metal tips, half of them have natural wood tips. We're gonna see. We're gonna see where we go. This one feels real special. Let's just look at that. So this is by Texas Jeans, and it has a crabapple tulip. It's heavy. I think this is one of my heaviest I think this would be considered a Tibetan. It's 33 grams, and then it also has a brass tip, so it spins really fast and really long. I was talking to my friend Melody, and I was telling her, like, I have a few spindles that are graduate level. This is definitely a graduate level spindle, and so it is not coming back out until I learn a thing or two, because the first time I tried to spin on it, I was getting really frustrated because it was too fast and I couldn't keep up with the draft, and I was getting over twisted. And then when a woolen spun yarn gets over twisted, you have to stop and untwist it, or if you try to draft past it, it snaps. So I was getting a lot of snaps in my singles, and it was a lot. It was just a lot. So there's those two. I'll show you some of my glass tips. I have 3 glass tip spindles, all from different makers. So we'll pull those out. So here is a Glindle from Bristlecone, and it has, how to do that. There we go. It has a dark green tip. If you know anything about me, green's my favorite color, so I tend to be attracted to green things. And these glass spindles just feel like magic wands. Like they're like unordained, and then have a really funky tip at the end. So there's my Glindle. This is by Stephen Willett, which is another glass tip spindle, and it has like a flower in there. I think it's so precious. This one's a bit more of a wider shaft than the Glindle is, but the Glindle's a little bit taller. So there we go. I think I like, because I'm so tall and I'm not lanky. Lanky's not a good word, but I have very long limbs. I like a longer shaft on my spindles, I'm realizing. So these are the things you figure out as you work through it. This one's real special. This is by Mingo and Asho. It's another glass tip spindle, but it also has like hand carved. Is it hand carved or hand burned? I think it's like hand burned designs along the shaft of the spindle, and there's more stuff. It's just covered by the spin that I'm in the middle of, but this is a real treat. I really, really enjoy all my glass tip spindles. I have, what else to show you? Okay, I'm just gonna pull out some more of them. This is actually going significantly faster than I thought it was going to. I thought this was gonna take like hours, but I'm trying to not wax poetic about each of them, even though I could talk to you about all of them. Here's my little Russian from Spanish Peacock. This is so fast. It's a Russian lace spindle. I think it weighs like 15 grams. It's so lightweight, and it is so fast, and it is such a treat spinning on this. I'm spinning, I'll talk to you about my spinning projects in a little bit. And then I have a few spindles from Yarn Spindles, which I will need to pull out. So I have a few spindles from Yarn Spindles. One of my spindles was unfortunately dyed by the fiber that I was spinning on it. So I was making myself a little battling. And the blue silk in this tinted my spindle. So I've actually decided not to use, I'm not using that blue silk anymore, because I would hate for someone to spin something on like a suspended spindle or a support spindle and have that silk like tint their tools. Like you see, that is permanently blue. So it is now just in my stash for things for me, and I know that if I decide to spin with it, to spin it on a darker spindle, so that it doesn't tint anything. But here are my spindles from Yarn Spindles. Some of them have, how do I do this? There we go. Let's just hold it like this. So here are my spindles from Yarn Spindles. I got 2 with a natural tip and 1 with a metal tip to compare them. These are all Tibetans. And I don't know if I have a clear preference for Tibetans versus Russians versus Fongs yet. I do know Tibetans spin nice and long and Russians spin nice and fast. So I think it depends on the fiber that you're spinning, what you would reach for. So these 2, I made myself some battlings. Here's the green one. Yeah, here's the green one. And here's the yellow one. There's another color that I just haven't started. But I made myself a set of 5 1-ounce battlings to like practice on my spindles on. So this is the other half of this purple's on another spindle, but this, I finished the purple, I finished the blue, and I've started the green and the yellow, and then I haven't started the pink yet. But I just took a braid of comb top, broke it up into colors, added some Icelandic fleece and some Coopworth fleece, and then added some silk. And I made this, and I don't know if I'm going to apply it into like a gradient yarn when I'm done. I don't know if I'm going to apply it into 5 20-gram singles. I think they're 28 grams, 5 28-gram singles. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this, but it was just really good practice to figure this out. The Icelandic in here is a little bit grippy, so it's been much better spinning it on like the Tibetans because they spin a little bit slower and a little bit longer, so I'm not over twisting it. I tried spinning this on a Russian. It was not a good time. So I think that's the other thing that I'm learning is depending on the type of fiber I'm spinning, certain fibers lend themselves more to certain spindles. Like I will not spin a long wool on a Russian. It just adds too much twist too fast, and I end up, you know, overspinning. And my last spindle that I'm going to show you is a spindle from the Spindle Shop out in Australia. So here's what that looks like. It is a Tibetan. He makes his from these really beautiful rare woods, and this has, I mean, honestly, I feel like this tip is a weapon. It is so long and so sharp. So that's that. I do have a few more spindles in the mail, as you do. But I was talking to Melody, and we have come up with a plan to make sure I stop buying spindles. Well, one, I have a pretty significant library. I have a little bit from all of the makers that I was interested in trying. I have one spindle that I just got from Enid Ashcroft. That was the only maker that I was interested in trying. That she just had a shop update, and I grabbed one. And then there's a Alice Savage. I really want to try her spindles, and I'm just waiting for her to have a shop update so I could like sneak in, grab 2, and get out. But that's where we are. So I love them. I love them so much. It brings me so much joy. Also, it's like a real portable project. Like I took my spinning to D&D yesterday, and all my friends were like fascinated by it, and then like they just pretended it wasn't there because it's really quiet. And I just, you know, I put my chalice in my lap, I spin in my lap, I wind on, I do my butterfly. It's great. I'm having a really good time. So I'll show you. Oh, I'm lying. I forgot a spindle because it's in my basket. There's also this spindle. It's attached to a Rolag. That's how I missed it. I have this from Straddle Creek Spins, and this is also a Tibetan. I have a lot of Tibetans and very few Russians because the Russians scare me because they're so fast. But I think the more spinning I do, I don't know if my like preferences will change. I do like a good fong and a good wand style spindle. So I don't know. So I'll show you a few of my spinning projects. These are some Rolags from Hikari Handmade on Etsy. If you don't follow Hikari, get your life. She's a brilliant human, and she's the type of maker I aspire to be. But I did get some Rolags from Hikari just to spin on my spindles. So I got 2 Rolags on that Spindle Shop spindle. So this is my 3rd Rolag that I'm spinning on this Straddle Creek spindle. So there's one spinning project. Here is a spinning project I have not really started. So I did get I have a braid of Cheviot, I don't know how you say this, from Wee Chickadee, and I carded it into little Rolags. So I have 24, this is wild, I have 24 Rolags in this basket, and I had every intention of spinning it for socks, and I have to reevaluate that sock spin because here's my sample. So I did spin a bit, and then chain plied it. And here's my sample. It is 30 wraps per inch at a 3-ply, which is lace weight. And I don't want to knit lace weight socks. So I have to go back to the drawing board, try a different spindle, and sample again and see what I'm aiming for, like 16 to 20 wraps per inch. And I'm at 30 wraps per inch for a 3-ply. I don't want to spin a 4-ply yarn. That will take forever. So I'm going to resample on a different spindle and see if I can get closer to 20 wraps per inch. And then here's my last ongoing spinning project. This is a braid of Mirabelle by Spindelicious. Here it is. A braid of Mirabelle by Spindelicious on Polworth and Silk that I pulled off into faux lags. And I've been spinning it that way. So that's what's on. I just almost dropped all of my spindles on the floor, which would have been a crime and a tragedy. That's what's on these 2. So here we go. That's what's on these 2 spindles is Mirabelle. So this is my Crow Goddess, and I fit like maybe half an ounce onto this. I'm going to see how much I can fit on this, and I'm just going to keep filling them up and keep going. I didn't sample for this because I'm not spinning with an end goal in mind, so I'm just spinning. I did rip it into faux lag so I could maintain the color progression, so I've just been spinning it across exactly how Beth dyed it, and that is that's my plan. So those are all of my ongoing spinning projects and all of my support spindles. So acquisitions will be pretty small today because honestly, that was acquisitions. I do have a fleece to share with you. This is shop inventory, but I mean, she's precious. I really like Perendale. If you shopped the first Starlight Blends update, you might have noticed that a lot of my fleece, my bats had Perendale in it. I think Perendale is a really good basic like building block fleece. I really like including Perendale in my bats, and I was running out of dark fleece. Like I didn't have very much dark fleece, so I found a charcoal Perendale lamb. So here it is. Oh wow, that's pretty. That's, excuse me. I mean, yes, I looked at it, but it's even prettier in the camera. So I found this charcoal Perendale lamb in the Raw Wool for Sale Facebook group, which I have since left because it is a problem. I should not be in there. It's from one of the few Perendale flocks in America. I wrote down the name of the farm, Lucky Lane Farm. I was just like, I wrote down the name of the farm. Lucky Lane Farm, and this is a lamb. This is her second shearing, so it's not her hogget fleece, but also it's wild that a lamb grew locks this long. This is bananas, but it's so pretty. It's so soft, and it's going to be a really good basic building block for my bats. And I needed, again, I just needed another dark fleece. I went through so much of my dark Corriedale between the last shop update and the one that I'm working on that I needed a something else that was a good basic building that I could just throw in everything and not have it like really... I didn't want something that had like too much character, I guess, especially for like blending. So Perendale is a really good building block because it has good length, has good hand, good, it's soft, good crimp. I mean, like, look at that crimp. That's bananas. It has good crimp. So it's just a really good basic building block. Also, it's a delight to spin on its own. And I have 6 pounds of it. So even scoured, I'm probably going to have 4 pounds of it. I'm going to stash 2 pounds away for Tazhi. And the rest of it is going in shop inventory for bats. So that was one acquisition. The other acquisition is I got my big drum carter. My electric drum carter is a Little Tom Wide from Fancy Kitty. We had some growing pains. We're still getting to know each other. It's a very different carding experience than my little brother manual crank carter is. But I'm having the time of my life, and I'm so happy to have her because my shoulders, guys, my shoulders are thanking me for getting a new carter. So I have my new carter. Starlight Blends is back in business. We should have a shop update really soon, and I will be sure to let you guys know when that happens. Okay, guys, this episode's gonna be long. Sorry in advance. I mean, how can I say sorry in advance when I'm apologizing after recording for an hour? So sorry now, because it's not in advance. I probably should have put this at the top. But I had a lot to share. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the Ask Tazhi section because honestly, I think it's fun. And someone gave me a really good question and I took a screenshot of it so I wouldn't forget it. So this is by Woven Heart. Thank you, Woven Heart, for asking this question. She said, I'm a new spinner and love the opportunity to ask questions about things. I have a question about plying. Excellent question. What do you do when you're going along nice and smooth and then wham? She put an exclamation point. I'm snapping for emphasis. Wham. One of your plies breaks. I'm stumped about how to rejoin and continue on seamlessly. So appreciate any insight about this. So we've all had this happen where you're plying along and you're having a great time and then like one of your bobbins rebounds in the opposite direction and your singles snap. Or you have a place in your singles that was just not as spun tightly as you thought it was and you pulled too hard and your single snapped. So what I do and what I've learned is the easiest way to rejoin your singles. So you can do a few things. You could try like spit splicing your singles together, but that really only works if you have like two, if you have like floof to floof, like two unspun ends. I honestly don't like the split splicing thing because I worry that the integrity of my like yarn is not great. What I like to do, if you're plying and one of your singles breaks, is one, stop. Do not panic. It happens. It happens to the best of us. I say it happens to the best of us. I don't know if it happens to the best of us. It happens to me. So stop. Do not panic. What I do is I untwist my plies. So if I'm spinning, I spin my singles Z. I love when people say Z and they say Z. Like that must be like a non-American thing, but they're like, I spin my singles Z. And I'm just like, I want to be one of the cool kids. So I spin my singles Z, which is clockwise, and I ply S, which is counterclockwise. Yes. Z is clockwise, S is counterclockwise. So I stop, I untwist my plies so I can separate my two plies together. And then I take the new ply and I place it between the plies that I have. So if I'm doing like a 2-ply yarn, I untwist my 2 plies so I have a ply in each hand, and then I take my broken ply where I want to reattach it and I put it between the 2 plies. And I like to do this like 2 inches back to make sure I get a nice strong join, and then I pinch them together. So I'm holding all 3 plies, and then I start treadling, and I start treadling pretty slowly. Like I don't want to just go immediately back to full speed. I start treadling pretty slowly, and I smooth down. Wow, I just put my hand in front of the camera and broke my focus like a ninny. I smooth down the 3 plies together as I'm treadling to add that twist back in, and then I give it a little bit of an extra smoothing at the end where the broken ply stops, because you don't want that to kind of like stick out of your yarn, and then you're reattached and you're good to go. So that's all you do. You untwist, you put your broken ply in between your 2 plies of your yarn, you start spinning slowly, you smooth that back in, you reattach, and you're good to go. And it works the same with 2 plies, 3 plies, 4 plies, same thing every single time. Reattaching your yarn when you're chain plying is a completely different beast and would require me to have like actual things to show you. But if you're just doing like a generic 2-ply or 3-ply, place your single in between your yarns and then smooth that bad boy in and keep going. And that's what you do when your ply breaks, because honestly, my plies break all the time. Most of the time it's because I have my bobbins tensioned too heavily, and then as your bobbins like lighten up, you should like adjust your tension, and I always forget, and then I go and I yank it because I'm just like, why am I not getting yarn? And then I break my plies. It happens. It literally happens all the time. And it's actually a pretty easy fix. So it's a really good thing to practice. Just untwist, reattach, you're good to go. Hope that helps. So let's talk about something that's bringing me joy this week. The idea was to talk about things that are non-spinning related, but honestly, it should just be like, let's talk about D&D, because I feel like that's always what's bringing me joy. 99% of my personality these days are support spindles and D&D. That's it. There's no room in me for anything else. I'm either talking to people about support spindles, I'm talking to people about Dungeons and Dragons. That's all I got. That's all I got. I'm a nerd. I can't help it. So some of my favorite people on the planet, Brennan Lee Mulligan, Lou Wilson, Abria Iyengar, and Erica Ishii have launched a storytelling podcast, which, oh my God, I'm smiling so big already. You would think they're my best friends. That's how much I love them. They launched a storytelling podcast called Worlds Beyond Number. It has not officially launched through like podcast streaming. It's only on like Patreon, but like there was no universe where I didn't like immediately subscribe to their Patreon. Y'all, you guys, I had so many feelings listening to it. It just, it brings me the most joy. It brings me so much joy that I immediately decided to rewatch Calamity and let Brennan Lee Mulligan hurt my feelings again. So the most joy. I can't wait. I can't wait. And another episode comes out on Tuesday, which unless you're watching this in the year 2225, where the cat overlords have banned podcasts, it's literally in 2 days. So that's going to be like a running joke now. We're just going to talk about like random years where like the cat overlords rule. It's just a thing we're going to do now. I get a new episode in 2 days and I am literally counting the hours. My whole heart for Brennan Lee Mulligan, my whole heart for that group. Man, if you love D&D and you haven't watched Brennan DM, fix that. Now. It's unavoidable. Fix it now. And then for the spinning thing that's bringing me joy, Lisa at Soulful Spinning. Should I just say Lisa brings me joy? Lisa brings me joy. Lisa, if you're watching, you bring me the most joy. Lisa at Soulful Spinning has been doing this like breed study from the winter solstice to the vernal equinox. Y'all, I love talking about things in terms of like seasonal changes. It just makes me feel extra fancy. So that was excessive. That was way over the top. Lisa's doing a breed study where she shares like a different breed from the winter solstice to the vernal equinox. And those videos are just making me so happy. I love watching spinners nerd out and take a deep dive into sheep breeds. I woke up this morning and I saw she had an Icelandic one out, and I almost did not record so I could go watch her do that Icelandic video. And then I was just like, Tashiana, you have all day. Like, make it make sense. You have all the time in the world. So when I'm done here, I will be going to watch the Icelandic video. But Lisa's just a gem. She's just a gem. She's a gift. She's excellent. She's excellent. I love her. So if you're not watching Lisa at the Soulful Spinner, the links will be below. So I think there's one more thing to talk to you about. So if you watched last episode, which was episode 5, either episode 4 or 5. I don't know what episode this is. If you watched the last episode, I showed you guys the yarn that I spun for the coffee run collar, which is my friend Samantha Guerin's pattern. I showed you the yarn that I spun for it, so if you've watched that episode, you would have seen it. I was just watching Casey at Young Folk Knits, and she was talking about the cowls and the shawls and all the things that she might want to knit, and she also mentioned the coffee run collar, and I was like, hey, Casey, do you want to do a knit along? And she was just like, yes. And she came up with the best name for the knit along ever. It's called Collar Me Happy. So Casey and I are going to be running a knit along from Valentine's Day to the vernal equinox. So from February 14th to March 21st, which is when I think the equinox is. February 14th to March 21st. And they're literally, the only rule is knit something for your neck. That's it. Make one of those fun dicky things. I like that word. Make one of those fun dicky things, or a collar or a cowl or a shawl. Just make something in the 5 weeks between February 14th and between Valentine's Day and the vernal equinox, which is plenty of time to then still wear it, because it's, unless you live in the southern hemisphere, then it's not winter for you. Don't do that. But if you live in the northern hemisphere, it'll still be pretty chilly. It'll be nice to have like a fun warm thing to like layer around your neck. I'm going to be knitting my coffee run collar. I don't think Casey has decided what she's knitting just yet, but Sam, because Sam is super generous and super kind and just a genuinely amazing human, Sam is going to be offering a discount on all of her like accessories from next week, unless you're watching this in the year 2300 where the cats have outlawed Ravelry, from next week to February 14th, so that if you decide you want to knit the coffee run collar with me or knit any of her other accessories, you'll have a discount on it. I will post that in a communities post if you don't follow me on Instagram, which if you don't, I'm a hoot. I'll post that in a communities post so that you can get the discount code if you decide you want to knit any of Sam's patterns. Whips are welcome. You don't need to start a new project. You can, pick up a whip. There will be prizes. I'm just saying. So you might want to join this. I will have more information about how we're running the knit along in a week or two. Not in a week or two, because Valentine's Day is in a week or two. I will have more information about how we're running that knit along in a week. Casey and I just need to do some logistics. It's most likely going to be on Instagram, but maybe we'll do like a Ravelry. We'll do Instagram and Ravelry entries, because I know Instagram's not everyone's jam, which I totally get that. Social media is hard. Ask me how I know. So I totally get that Instagram's not everyone's jam. So maybe we'll do like an Instagram and a Ravelry page. So I probably should have figured out these logistics before I started talking about it, but we'll chaos. That's what you're here for. But I will have a communities post with all the details of the cowl in a few days, and I'll post it on YouTube if you're not following me on Instagram, and then make something that makes your neck happy. And that's what we'll do. And there'll be prizes. Casey's going to have prizes. I'm going to have prizes, and Sam's going to have prizes, because Sam's just one of the most amazing humans in the history of the planet. So there you go. I, again, will be at Vogue Knitting Live on Saturday. So if you're going to be there, come find your girl and say hi. Let me know in the comments if you're going to be there, and then come find your girl and say hi. I will be wearing my ranunculus, and if I'm extra ridiculous, I might sew a pair of pants in a week. I haven't decided if I'm that ridiculous yet, but I will be wearing my ranunculus. I will be wearing a big floppy hat, because that is my favorite accessory and it makes me feel super dressed up. So if you want to find me, come find your girl, say hi. We can take all the pictures. I pose like this. In every single one, I'm a real nerd. And if you think I'm this ridiculous online, catch me in person. But that's it, you guys. That's it for episode 5 of the podcast. I have no idea if this is episode 5 or episode 6, but whatever it is, we are done and dusted and wrapping up. I love you. Go make something fun today.